we are going to change. What is needed? Talking about use of biomarkers for identification of ASU and H drugs. This is the topic, but we will reach there and we'll have some idea about biomarkers and how we are using in different pharmacopoeial monographs and for different purposes in identification of raw materials and identification of formulations. But overall, if it is going to be a discussion, then you can get much more. And if only presentation, that it is like the teacher comes and dictates and do. But whatever you want, since I have given, you can say up to 25 years in this field, especially in the biomarker analysis, then you can get many things much more. Is it okay now? You can start. Okay. So before I start, this is Jamia Hamdard, that is a school of, in fact, the university, and that was created by Hakim Abdul Hamid. You must be knowing. So always, this is my second slide whenever I present. And this was a good philanthropist and Hakim. He have created this university and donated to government. And this run right now in public-private partnership. It's a government institution, and but developed by Hakim Abdul Hamid. Then this is the School of Pharmacy, and this is Rank 1 Pharmacy Institute of India. And followed by this building was developed as a Center for Advanced Research in Pharmaceutical Sciences, and later on recognized Pharmaceutical Center of Excellence in Unani. So a lot of laboratories that we have developed from project grants, few of them is here, and few we can see in the video I will play in the last of my presentation. Since I am having one center of Unani medicine, if I am not going to talk about Unani medicine, so this is not going to be justice. You must be knowing what is Unani medicine, and because since all of you are from traditional system, so you know that was initially started by Hippocrates. In fact, on the concept of Hippocrates, followed by Avicenna and many more Arabian, and then Indians have given a lot to Unani system of medicine for its shaping us and whatever is right now in the production. So India has a lot of contribution on Unani system. Then, what is the scope of present this lecture? The scope is a lot, anything dealing with the plant. And in plants, what we have food, we have drugs, we have nutraceuticals, dietary supplements, we have medicines, and we have Ayush medicine, and we have Ayush Ahar. Few more we can have. But here, at least we should know what are those things. So, do you know the differences between them? How we can differentiate? But as per the definition, since I am dealing with all and these things and heading the department of these subjects, so I can say you by definition what are those things. So what is food? Food is anything obtained from living organisms. First criteria. Second thing is that it is essential for your life. So anything which is essential for your life is food. And if you are taking anything which is not essential for your life, then it is not a. Then coming to drug, because from drug you will go to medicine, and drugs are those substances if you are taking them internally or applying externally, they are making some changes in your physiology. If it is not going to make a change, that's not a means. If you are taking a sugar solution, one one cup, आप कोई भी sugar solution लेते हैं, if it is not going to make any change, आप चीनी लेते हैं तो कभी आपको कोई चेंज नहीं नजर आएगा एक्सेप्ट एनर्जी, है ना? So that's not a drug. But if you are taking one spoonful of chili powder, suspend it in water and take it, it is going to make lot of changes. एक चम्मच आप जमाल बूटा लीजिए, lot of changes. So that's it. Right. So that's what is the difference between food and drug. So what are those things? So chemically, if we talk about food, foods are what? Especially primary metabolites. You must be knowing that plants are composed of two type of metabolites. One is and second is secondary. So what are primary metabolites? Primary metabolites are the substances which are essential for the life of plants, which are having high energy bonds in them, that plants are going to utilize and make their own energy. And those are essential for the life. Talking about carbohydrate, talking about protein, talking about fat, nucleic acid, which are essential for the life of. So those comes under food. Oh, food, yeah. But talking about secondary metaboloids, so how secondary metaboloids came in the plant? Do you have any secondary metabolite in you? Mm-hmm. So, in fact, plants do not contain any excretory organ. Since plants do not contain any excretory organ, then what happens? Suppose that if we are eating anything, then we are going to urinate and we are going to defecate. So, the materials which are in excess, the material substances which are toxic, are in the product of metabolism. We are going to excrete it out. What about plants? So they are going to produce in the product of metabolism. Since they do not have an excretory organ, they are going to excrete it. So talking about like urea, like creatinine in the product of metabolite of human, of animal. So what do you think? Does they are toxic? They are toxic to us. If their concentration is increasing, then what will happen? It will cause death. But what about the plants? They are also storing secondary metabolites are in the product of metabolism. They are going to store because they do not have any excretory organ. So wherever they are going to store it, what will happen to that organ? They destroy. It is toxic to them. So talking about tea leaves, what is essential for tea leaves? Carbohydrate, protein, fat. What do you think about caffeine, whether it is essential for the life of tea? No. You can see many of the tea plants which are containing either very less amount or without caffeine because it is not essential for the life of the tea plant. So those secondary metabolites are not essential, non-essential parts, but produced as in the product of metabolism. These are excretory products and these are toxic in nature. So if these are produced as in the product of metabolism and toxic in nature, so whenever they are going to be stored in some gland, sometimes they are going to be stored and whatever they are going to be stored, that is known as lysogenous glands, lysocytogenous glands, some dead portion of the food are in the cell wall. And if it is stored too much, then whole of the thing is blown. That's it. And when you are taking them, they are going to bind with us in the enzymes and proteins available in our body. They are going to bind with them and exert some action. If they are exerting some action, and that's what you are calling it bioactive. What is? So these are bioactive constituents, known as, but primary metabolites do not known as bioactive constituents. These are known as inactive or primary metabolites. These are not active. But what is bioactive? Bioactive is secondary metabolite. Bioactive is secondary metabolites which are produced as excretory products are in the product of metabolism. So whatever the drugs we are talking about, if we are taking them, they are going to change some physiology, changing such a way. Like if you took Jamal Gota, it caused loose motion. So it's a drug. So if it is causing that this loose motion, and that and once it causes loose motion, and then again you must be knowing how these drugs were invented. These were not invented like a drug. These were invented as a food because population was searching for food material. Then, when they were searching the food, sometimes they came in contact with Jamal Gota and sometimes they came in contact with opium. When they came in contact with Jamal Gota, it caused loose motion and that was identified as a toxic substance. But when they felt constipation, then they remembered that Jamal Gota in smaller doses, then it acted like when it was required. So if the drugs are required, then only you should take, otherwise it is required. All the talking about nutraceuticals and dietary supplements. These are neither food nor drugs. Neither they are essential for your body, nor they are going to change any physiology. But if you are taking them internally or applying externally, they are going to be supportive. They are going to be supportive, supporting your body. That's what it is. Similarly, we have Ayush medicine. You must be knowing all of you what is Ayush medicine. The medicine are medicinal substances which are listed in Schedule 1. In this medicine are Ayush Ahar is similar to the food but listed in Schedule 1. I told you, drug is anything which is going to change your physiology. But if that physiological change is used for therapeutic purpose, means when you took Jamal Gota, it was a poison. It was a drug. Okay? But when you tip, when it is required and required doses, then it is still not under the. Yes, that is always a poison. This is going to change your physiology. But if it is required, then it is a next topic slide. Then in Ayush medicine, what we have that is to know that this is not characterized chemical. But in modern, whatever we have that is chemically characterized. And There are few other things that we are going to use in modern, like pharmaceutical is also coming. That is discussed. Some isomeric mixture also we are using in nutraceutical form. Some maximum these are isomeric compounds. There we are using complex methods. You must be knowing what the current market needs and the opportunities. Okay? That synergy-based combination and phytopharmaceutical, value-added extract. Value-added extract you must be knowing. Many of you turmeric कैप्सूल आता है ना विदानिया या अश्वगंधा का कैप्सूल आता है टैबलेट्स आते हैं तो सम CSM 66 करते हैं अश्वगंधा का टैबलेट आप यूज करते होंगे then sometimes it is used we are telling the extract what extract alcoholic extract sometimes they are telling that within this person usually it is 2.5 to 5% in the room. Sometimes they are claiming that it contains 20% of vinyl, enriching the vinyl oil content. That is valuable. So enriching, what happens after enriching? Suppose that they were using 5% of vinyl oil content, then the dose was as per the extractive value. But if they want to reduce the dose, and like it was 600 milligrams, suppose that 60 grams, 10 grams, so it was 10%, 600 milligrams. If they want to reduce the dose to make it 150, then they have to claim for 20% of the value content in the food. So like that, they are doing value, manage the value. And major problem is standardization, lack of standardization. And that is mainly concerned with the raw material. The main problem, even right now, in use and in, you can say, that trust of Ayush medicine goes for standardization because we are not getting quality raw material. So if we are getting quality raw material, then only we can produce the quality. How we can ensure the quality raw material? For that, we need many of the markers, many of the fingerprints, and one thing is biomarkers. Okay? So even so what is biomarker? You know that you are using chili. So can you think about using chilies without caffeine if it do not contain caffeine? Would you like to use it? If your black pepper is sweet, do not contain any piperine. Would you like to use it? So the main principle why you are using it, that's why. In black pepper it is piperine. In ashwagandha it is mainly vinyl oil. In tea it is caffeine. In ravansia it is sulfur. So many of those because of which we are going to use that formulation or that plant material. Those all are having some active principles because of which they are used. Those are but in some plants it is known. And in many plants we do not know which one is the biomarker because we have many of the compounds present in them. No specific compound sometimes present. Then how we can characterize? So in case of black pepper, we can use pepper. In case of tea, we can use caffeine. Even just take borago one plant, very common plant used in United system. No specific biomarker. Yeah. But it is rarely. available also in borageneity. It is found. Talking about even senna, sennocytes are present in many of the plants. A, B, C, D, not very common. Means specific marker one thing, like we are talking about Alexandrian senna and Indian senna. In Indian senna, we have just one marker, that is tinidine glycoside, which is present in tinidine senna, which is grown in India. Rest other is weak. Yeah. But tinidine glycoside is not a biomarker. Then even talking about biomarkers, then we can have anything which can predict the biology, either having with some human thing, either it is biological marker or it is chemical marker that can be used for the purpose of identity. So there are different type of markers that we are using, and what are the challenges of ASU&H? Is this is used for adulteration in polyhedral complexity, by variation, geographic variation, lack of reproducibility. So that all means for scientific validation of their claim. And what is the difference between biomarker and marker? This is used for identity, quality, and efficacy. Biomarker. But marker is only used for the identification. Like I told you the example of tinidine glycoside, that can be used for the purpose of identity because it is not signifying biology. Okay? Because biology is because of presence of stenocytes, and stenocytes are phenolic in nature. They are uh, having acidic property. So if you are going to take them internally, any plant material containing stenocyte, if you are going to take them, are those types phenolic, they are going in the stomach and intestine, they are increasing the peristaltic movement, they are improving the that the power of GIT to absorb the water, because they are itching, they are causing itching on the surface. So that's why. But tinidine glycoside is not doing those things, but still it is used as Senna is a different type, but ratio can be used as a chemical marker. CMP ratio. Sometimes we are using ratio also. In case of many fixed dials, we are using ratio of different fatty acids that is used as biomarker for fingerprint of that volatile that fixed dial. So lot of different type of biomarkers you can see, like chemical biomarkers, and then metabolomic biomarkers, usually fingerprint we are using. Then we have DNA based biomarkers, so that is used for the purpose of identity only, but it is a biological origin, that's why it is known as biomarker. Then there are different functional categories of analytical reference marker, then active biomarker, as I told you, which is an active biomarker, the things which are means responsible for biomass and derived from secondary metabolites. Those are known as active biomarkers. And some of like Mimosa pudica, so that contains mimosine. Mimosine is not a secondary metabolite, it's a primary metabolite, but it is an unusual amino acid. Okay, and acts like active biomarker and restricted to that. There are some negative biomarkers and some negative markers, like in case of lumbago zelanicum, lumbagine. So it is negative. There's different type of definitions of negative biomarkers. Like one definition is that if it is going to cause toxicity. So if more plumb again, it is more toxic. It can be used as one negative marker. And then some toxic similar to that, some toxic marker. And some markers we are using in stability indicating marker. Sometimes when we are heating the drug, like if you store a Savanda and store it up more than 1 year, then this is going to produce one fluorescent compound, lactone compound, okay, and which is produced in that after 1 year, and that can be used for identification of shelf life. So like this, there are different type of these markers we are using in analysis, and mainly for authentication, for detection of adulterant, detection of substitute, species differentiation, then phenotype differentiation. Many of the plants which are used, and they are having different phenotypes. So many things about biomarker here. An example is of butanol A and budaparin A. Sometimes budaparin is also used as negative because it is toxic and highly concentrated. But useful things, budaparin. But we are talking about anti-cancer property. So anti-cancer activity of budanine is because of budaparin. So depends on the use, how and when we are going to use it. And similar to that, we have like volatile substances like ethanol is used in glue, but it is not very effective. However, biology of using that glue is because of ethanol. It's a biomass. Then glycerin is of Glycerida glabra, also available in many plants, but here glabridine, glabridine is specific to this, not preventing other in the family of other plants. So we have different specific biomarkers, chemical markers, and other things. Those are especially the purpose of identification. The purpose of this biomarker is especially for the identification of those medicines. But when we are using these plants in IUs, then we are using it in the form of extract, usually aqueous or hydroalcoholic extract. These are very complex things. And what people are doing, they are selling if their extract is very costly, then they are adding these marker in smaller amount because we are not specified in pharmacopoeia scale that how much percentage of that biomarker should be present. Then they are adding something like improper sativas. Many of people are using here in Haribao, they are using paper cutting. And in the paper cutting, they are spraying kerosene. They are selling it. And you can asking, you can quantify because they are adding it. The material is very costly. So like this, they are doing also. So we have to set some limit of these markers also. Still, it is limited. We are having another pharmacopoeia only TLC, nothing about biomarker for the purpose of identification. But in other pharmacopoeia, they are asking about two. At least one should be biomarker, other should be the chemical marker. Similarly, European pharmacopoeia and other American herbal and WHO. So those all are asking for this different biomarker. We are doing like here in case of polyester formulation. Now, earlier we were talking about identification and quantification of markers as a modern method of analysis. But now we are talking about multiple markers, mainly by using some LCMS and other fingerprint methods, and that's what is known as metabolomics. Okay. So that now we are using metabolomics profiling for identifying doing even partial class determination, discrimination, evaluation, those things where markers we are using. But right now, what is the term that is methodology based on the development of that of each and every compound present in your formulation, or each and every compound present in your plant in that area. That is needed. That can be used for fingerprint identification of raw material formulation or anything. So here, I already told that it will be other we are using two markers, and, but in five to some extent, we are using two, at least one to two, if possible, that would be five markers, but in five to some extent, we are using four markers right now. So what is metabolomics right now? In fact, my area work on metabolomics. So what is that? So few minutes, how much time I can take? So in this metabolomics, what we do, suppose that you are preparing a tablet of ashwagandha, and if the dose is suppose that 500 milligrams. Similarly, just think about preparing a tablet of paracetamol. So when you are preparing a tablet of paracetamol, 500 milligram dose, everyone is using. So 500 milligram tablet, if you are preparing in a pharmacy or in the laboratory, then how you prepare it? 500 milligram of that tablet, and then whatever is coming, suppose that you are preparing 100 tablets, then weighing the content and making dough and granulation and then formulation. But before launch, if you want to launch this in the pharmacy, what industry does? Doing same thing. But before launching, we are ensuring the content of paracetamol in each and every bag. So how much they can go up to plus minus 2%. That means each and every tablet should contain not less than 490 and not more than 510 milligrams. So, so if it is this, then it can go to the market. What about ashwagandha tablet? After preparation of tablet, do you ensure how much amount of ashwagandha is present in the tablet, or can you do it? No, because it contains multiple constituents. You could not analyze it. So when you analyze, then you are getting this type of peaks, you can say there. So this type, multiple components are present in there. So if you can identify and analyze each and every component present in the extract or in any formulation, that is so this is complete set of metaboloids present in any extract. Similar to genomics and other omics technologies like genomics contain complete set of genes present in any organism. Proteomics complete set of proteins present in that particular organism. It's similar to that. Metabolomics is complete set of metabolomics present in. So how we can identify and analyze it is very tough, not very easy, because you have different type of formulations. Okay, you see your drug is composed of either sometimes powder, sometimes juices, sometimes fat, sometimes distillate, okay? Some unorganized, some minerals, many things. So their chemistry is completely different, and their analysis is different. Sometimes you have terpenoids, sometimes you have carbohydrates, sometimes you have alkyloids. So when you are doing metabolomics, you cannot say that I am going to analyze only alkyloids. You have to analyze each and everything. You have to tell each and everything. So here analysis of each and everything of any formulation is required. You need set of expertise that which constituent is going where. You should know. And you cannot do until unless you have a good chemist. chemist is needed for metabolomic profiling. Otherwise, we are going to miss. So when I started in the approximately 2012, 13 on metabolomic profiling of drugs, then I thought how we can do it. It is very tough because it is containing multiple constituents. You cannot analyze using one equipment. So at that time, since you are working on some Unani formulation, Arpiyat, that is distillate, and those Arpiyat, since it contains only one type of constituent, okay, which is prepared by distillation, when we are distilling anything, then we are getting the constituents in the vapor, and those vapors are nothing, the chemical constituents, whatever is present is there, is nothing but only sesquiterpenes are monoter, only one type of constituent. So if any formulation contains only one type of constituent, and at that time I was having BCM, so I thought to go with this. At least for RCR, I can say that this contains this much amount of metabolite and this. So I started in that time with this. But now we have techniques, we have each and every instrument in our laboratory for analysis, and we can do each and every analysis in the laboratory. So we have LCMS, HRMS, and everything. And then, but so these were the aromatic waters that we started. We did live fingerprinting, identification of major compounds. So then we have two types of, one is major, one is minor. The constituents which are having more than 1% area, so that is major compound, okay, or otherwise it is in fraction, this is minor compound, so many major compound. And then what happens if you are going to take them? Suppose that this is 40 ml was dose. If you take them internally, then what will happen? If you are going to take 40 ml of or one dose of ashwagandha, do you know how much components of ashwagandha was present in the extract or in the tablet? Suppose that it contains 100 metaboloids in them, and you took them internally. How many got absorbed? So that should be also tested. If you are taking them internally, take the blood plasma, analyzing. If you are analyzing, doing this type of analysis, that is known as pattern recognition. And the metabolites which are absorbed in the blood, those are only responsible for biological activity. So, and even them, major metabolites which are present and absorbed in them, those are responsible for biological activity. So what we do, we take any formulation and then analyze them for metabolomic profiling, complete metabolites that we are getting for the extract or for the formulation, then we are giving it to the human or to the rats, getting their blood, and then finding out pattern recognition, finding out, suppose that it contains 100 metabolites, now after giving it to human, it is, we are getting only 20 out of 100. Then there are some other things like some metabolites are metabolized by liver. They are coming like a goose. We have to identify them. Some metabolites are biotransformed because of gut microbiota. We have to identify them. Okay. So total overall out of 100, we are getting 20, 25 metabolites. Few of them are major metabolites. And then identify them, what is that? And after identification, what we can do, we can go for in silico analysis at least and prove if our formulation was hepatoprotective, then finding out the genes responsible for that and hitting those 20 absorbed metabolites and finding out how they are going to interact and whether they are producing some biological activity or not. Okay. So that is network pharmacology. So using this metabolomics and network pharmacology can be very useful in scientific validation of traditional claims of linear value. But the challenge is in homeopathic medicine. Yes. But we may have solutions in these to come because it is present in nano, not nano, but less than pico. We could not analyze them. Okay. And many of the scientists even of the world are against those things. They are telling that if you could not analyze, then how you can say that these are medicine? So still we are actually If this is nothing, then you should take it. Then you should take it. Still they are doing. Okay. So like that type of, then we can do pharmacokinetic analysis of those major bioactive metabolites to still and do something with that stability and that instability study. Also we can do using these markers. And so like this, like in case of this year, DCMS, Archimacool, that the 56 components are present. And then after giving it to rat, it is showing 38 were only absorbed in the blood. So biological activity is not because of 38, but only few which were present as a major metabolite that we proved later. So many other things, not going to see in details, but um, working on this and mainly work on quantitative estimation and PLC profiling. So um, did a lot of work on PLC to the very question we get from in their chromatography. That will be good, but usually in PLC there are two types. One is normal phase and second is reverse phase. Okay. So in normal phase PLC, when we are doing for separation of these biomarkers, okay, we are using solvent system. Those solvent systems are usually non-polar because your the stationary phase is polar. Okay, and when you are running it, those metabolites, so the substances which are non-polar are moving with the solvent, okay, and going up, whereas the metabolites which are polar, they are retained with stationary phase because stationary phase is polar. Okay, so the compounds which are present up, they are having non-polar nature, and compounds which are retained down, these are mostly polar compounds. Compounds which are up, they are moved up because of their low molecular weight. Compounds having less molecular weight down, so depending on that. And there are different other things that we will not take, and otherwise it will take much time. Then organized, unorganized drugs also, then different TLC of different extracts. Yeah, different extracts. The TLC is not like hit and try right now. It's dependent science. Okay. Even writing a solvent system is also a science. Okay. TLC of IU formulation is still a bigger science than anything. Because in IU, sometimes you are using Asava and Rusta, very dilute formulation, until unless you are going to concentrate, then you could not get anything. Okay. For homeopathic formulation, if you are going to use direct formulation diluted, even you could not expect anything to get in TLC, no? Until unless it is mother tincture. If you are talking about sugar-based formulation, कुछ भी नहीं मिलेगा. Mother tincture usually we are doing, and even regarding sugar-based formulation, if you are going to talk, if you are not going to separate the sugar, you will not get anything. Everything will be deposited on the base only. And there are different methods of separation of those things that should be taken care. So a chemist can only do those things, not everyone. A lot of different events. A quantification. In some plants, if we do not have any marker, identified marker, and we are getting seeds, you can identify them easily. You can suppose that this is a plant. This we did a lot long back in 2011. At that time, we were not having Nimbidine and those things in our laboratory. Then we quantified in Nimbitic term, in fact, without use of any marker. How we can use this plant extract itself as a marker, original extract. Okay, and select any peak, and depending on their concentration, we can quantify the amount of medicine. If we do not know any marker, now we have that we can isolate them from CNC plate, we can identify them and do everything. But we do not have much That's much. So let have different markers of different plants like batata and philibum and yes, this is Solana, many markers. So this is so like in Itripal, at Tripala, so nothing is specific, but mainly canal and level marker is responsible. So many of them we analyzed and identified, like one formulation we identified about 11, 12 markers. So like perfume, glycogen, volume, acid, and folic acid, many of them. So in using one simultaneous method. So we we had to work out on those things to find out the markers so that we can ensure that this identity as a raw material which can be used like similar to that. So this was all अभी जब मैं presentation बना रहा था तो मेरे PLC याद लग गई. So like stereotype like ammonium tubulatum, alpha alpinatum is there. Then like borazo, rosemary, basic, like similar to beta-manchi. Beta-manchi contains volatile ion that can be used for volatile markers. So volatile markers we have a lot, and then in volatile markers and then fatty acid markers, we have different like if we talk about fatty acids. In fatty acids, we have different fatty acids in the textile. So then we are using the ratio of different fatty acids for identification. Like in some Gurukunda Glabra, but we identified Glabridine, and then Satmapatthar 4 we identified green and trichosanol. Like if we produce a fraction like Serica papaya, leaf fraction that was like the phytochemical in which we identified 4 markers. And just, yeah, here, my recipe transfer with the caffeine president like it is the butanol fat. Similarly, the 2 point rise, food markers we identify. We can do that using that biomarker also, or without biomarker also we can do bioautography, and that shows different activity directly we can use the activity. So here even analysis of those marker if these are two of similar type, okay, and we can analyze them on one place. We are doing on like on their lambda max. So if we are not doing, if they are two, how we can use? So we are using isostatic point, and that is depending on their lambda max. So showing you something about our laboratory. So this is zebra fish. You must be knowing this is 70% matching with the human beings and 84% human disease is matching. So this you can see and life that is there that 9 months development of human is stressed in 96 hours. That you can see here. So whole of the organism is developed in 96 hours. So you can see your 4 hours post fertilization. You can see this is 14 hours post fertilization. That shows the development of organ. Then 36 hours post fertilization development of eye. Then you can see 13 hours post fertilization. That shows heartbeat and movement of fluid all across. Since the organism is transparent and we can observe each and everything is through the microscope. So if we want to test like 48 hours is fixed for the start of heartbeat. If you want to check a drug about its toxicity or about its safety, whether it is safe for heart or not, at least in this small study, because 84% of disease is matching. Okay. Then we can put that extract and find it out the delay in heartbeat, find it out in the development of that particular organ. So that's how we can do toxicity studies and something that when you can develop. So like this, you can get results of toxicity study. Many of different that we use for testing and some other like disease testing also we can do. So there is different type of tanks we are using. Like one is novel object recognition and one is novel object design. Here you can see this is normal fish moving in normal tank and it is stacked with something and then if it is stacked then you have camera right? Then it is shown like this, when it's a movement and we are having this type of heat map, and then you can see if you put your hand in this tank and shake it, it is going to depress, and like then it is going to move only on the periphery, not in between usually. So if it is, so then you can have this type, and if you are claiming that your drug is antidepressant, then add this your drug in the tank and find it out time lapse. So like this, we are developing models so similar to that. This is also one model. This is to depress state, it is moving downside, if it is normal, it is moving up. So we can have these models. And similarly, we can say, yeah. Then similar to that, if you want to test the memory, so this is here you can see this is, if it's a normal, it's like here, this is familiar object, you should have this type of thing ball if you are going to keep it in a tank and with the fish it is trained for 22 hours and then after 2 3 days you take the fish and the same fish and put it in a tank in which one is pink and other is any other color. So normal behavior if a person is having sharp memory then it is moving towards new objects. It wants to explore new objects. But if memory is impaired, then it will explode. Nothing it will explode. It will move like normal. So that's how we can find out the heat map and that can be used for testing the memory. So different models we have developed for kidney, we have developed for cognitive disorder. Many things we have done. And right now, all for paper. Okay. That is also we have working pharmacology. You can submit, you can submit in Indian Journal of Traditional Knowledge, you can submit in pharmacology. You can submit in pharmacology and sustainable biology. The two journals are taken and used right now for Ayush medicine and especially veteran farmers. So thank you very much. You can see this video of my laboratory. You can ask anything. Who says? I think no system is having advantage over other system. Every system is having its own advantage. Nothing is like not I am not advantageous over the then not advantageous for me. I'm individually different and he is different. Mhm. You could not get in traditional system. If you want to get the instant result, you can go for modern. Yeah, homeopathy can do something. Homeopathy can do, obviously. Okay. Because we are using some drugs and in fact, in my knowledge, it is toxic. But what since I have little knowledge, I don't know how they are going to change this thing. तो मैं या तो ट्रेडिशनल दवा लेता हूँ बेटा ना मॉडर्न लेता हूँ कभी नहीं तो वंस आई फेल्ट विद लूज मोशन बंद नहीं हो रहा तो वन ऑफ माय फ्रेंड होम्योपैथिक डॉक्टर है एमडी उसने कहा तुझे यकीन नहीं होगा लेकिन एक दवा खा ले मेरी ट्रस्ट कर ले मेरे ऊपर 3-4 दिन हो गए तो मैंने कहा भाई दे दे तू क्या मैंने कहा बता नहीं सकता तुझे तो कोई ड्राफ्ट तो ड्राफ्ट दिया उसने ठीक हो गया जब मैं ठीक हुआ तो मैंने मुझे बता कहा भी नहीं 1 हफ्ते बाद जब मिला तो उसने कहा मैंने मार्क सॉल्व दिया उसने not like that because we don't know हम तो मरकरी को पॉइजन समझते हैं ना but in the farm it was given but it worked well लेकिन मजाक के लिए जब मरकरी में कुछ तो होगा but still each and every system is having some advantage of their own not their advantages कुछ क्रोमेटोग्राफी से कुछ बायोमार्कर से पूछ रहे हैं
Thank you, sir, for delivering such an informative lecture. We truly appreciate your knowledge, sir. It was a great learning experience for all of us. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. अब मैं अपने निर्देशक महोदय से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि सर को मोमेंट आप अब सभी लोग गेस्ट हाउस पे लंच के लिए चलेंगे